Did you know that Eddie Murphy and the director of Beverly Hills Cop 3 hated each other by the end of filming? In this video, I'll tell you all about it and even more secrets, because here's 10 things that you never knew about Beverly Hills Cop 1 to 4. In this video, we'll take a look back together at 40 years of Axel Foley and I'll rank the whole franchise. Here's everything you need to know. If you're new here, I'm Morph. I like to talk about films, so you can join my movie club by hitting that subscribe button now.
This is the cleanest and nicest police car I've ever been in my life.
The first movie introduced us to Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, a street-smart Detroit cop who is there when his best friend is murdered, and he takes it on himself to go to Beverly Hills to solve the case.
Look, we're talking about a friend of mine here!
Just don't do a damn thing. Stay out of this.
Well, look, I got some vacation time coming to me. I want to take my vacation now.
But did you know the film was originally going to star Sylvester Stallone, but he wanted it to be more of an action than a comedy and left to make Cobra instead. Other people considered for the main role were Al Pacino, Richard Pryor, and Mickey Rourke. Harrison Ford reportedly turned it down, but more on the Indiana Jones vibes later. Eddie Murphy came on board. It was reworked to be even more of a comedy and allowing Murphy to ad-lib a lot of the lines.
We're not going to fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
He's a fish out of water with his unorthodox methods and his fast talking as he uncovers a criminal operation and looks to take down the guys responsible for his friend's death.
He worked for you, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Hey! I can describe all of them.
Please move to the side of the car and put your hands on the hood. Possession of a concealed weapon and disturbing the peace.
Disturbing the piece I got thrown out of a window. What's the charge for getting pushed out of a moving car, huh? Jaywalking?
The first Beverly Hills Cop film was made for $15 million and makes $316 million worldwide. It was so successful, it was the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. It's serious.
These days that doesn't make the top 50, but it's rare to make that much money with an R-rated movie. Joker is at the top of the list with over $1 billion, and that's the only R-rated film to rank on the 50 highest grossing films of all time. Other movies released that year in 1984 included Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Ghostbusters, Gremlins, The Karate Kid, and Police Academy. What a year. Am I the only person who actually loves Police Academy? If you do, let me know in a comment. Fun fact is that the guy who plays Inspector Douglas Todd, Foley's boss, is actually a real police officer. They found him when scouting locations and liked his vibe so much that they hired him for the role, and these were the only roles he did, refusing to take up acting as a career.
The mayor called the chief called the deputy chief just chewed my ass out. You see I don't have any bit of it left, don't you?
In my opinion, the film is perfectly paced with some wonderful writing. We're invested in his quest from the start. There's literally one scene which sets this all up perfectly and lets us know exactly why Axel is so determined to find the people who did this.
Yo, how come you didn't tell on me when you got caught, man? How come you tell we were together? No.
Because I love you, man.
That's all it took to let us know that this guy did time for Axel, never dropped his name, he loves him, and Axel owes him. I also think the build-up of the relationship between Foley with the Beverly Hills Cops, Rosewood and Taggart, genuinely makes sense and is a feel-good storyline.
Why are we always arguing, man? Look, all three of us are cops. We should be working together.
The build-up of the relationship, between them being assigned to babysitting and keeping an eye on him, up to them seeing him do good police work, taking out criminals together in the strip club, and then at the end, Rosewood has already come round to Axel's way of thinking and is going in with him to risk his life in the big shootout.
Me too.
Billy?
Really, Sarge, you can do what you want, but I'm going in with Axel.
God damn it, Billy, this is really serious trouble. Billy!
I'm sorry, Sarge, I've got to.
I love this scene because it shows Billy's character a lot, that he thinks it's the right thing to go in and help Axel, like there's a woman in there that is in danger and he wants to go and help. And you can see that Taggart really doesn't want to, but he's going because he loves Billy. He's going in to protect his partner and make sure he comes out alive.
Wait a minute.
You feel like you see the start of this amazing friendship between the three, and it's not just kind of crowbarred in or like unnaturally thrust upon you. It is just very, very real and feels like it would make sense. And with Eddie Murphy being so affable as Axel Foley, you can see how easy it would be to not stay mad at him and to want to be his friend.
I'm all choked up on the inside. I got a lump in my throat. You look a little misty yourself there, Taggart.
One of the key traits for Axel is that everyone wants to be his friend. He's just so likable, and if you're not the bad guy, and if you're not sort of a really uptight police chief, you can't help but like him and kind of come around to his way of thinking and be on his side by the end of the film. The second film literally starts with him talking to the Beverly Hills captain in this one about going fishing together. They did a good job of making the stakes feel high in this one, so not only is he trying to get justice for his friend, but also they take the girl, someone that he used to know, hostage, and he's now trying to save her as well, which he does and gets shot in the process. Getting shot at the end of these films seems to become a bit of a tradition. In terms of ranking, we've got to give Beverly Hills Cop the S-tier top ranking. It is the bar at which all of the others will be judged. It is lightning in a bottle. The others will try and recapture it, but never be quite as successful. So let's move on to the second film. After giving this first one an S-tier ranking, where would you rank it? Let me know in a comment, and let's take a look at Beverly Hills Cop II.
What the hell are you doing in here?
This is not my office.
You damn right it isn't.
The second movie came out in 1987. Let's be honest, a sequel was inevitable after the success of the first film and Eddie Murphy's arrival as a superstar. It's directed by Tony Scott this time around, who made Top Gun, and apparently Top Gun and his work on that is what got him the job. He brings a more polished look and distinct action sequences, but there were actually reshoots because it was decided that he made it too action-focused and there wasn't enough comedy.
Who the hell are you? My name is Johnny Wishbone. Johnny Wishbone, and I'm a psychic from the island of St. Croix.
But did you know, early in production, they talked about the movie being set in either London or Paris, which, yes, is a terrible idea, and they decided not to, but I have to admit, as a Brit, I'd have loved to see Axel Foley dealing with Londoners. No doubt doing a terrible "Oi governor" accent at some point, but I'm happy they decided to keep it in Beverly Hills in the end. This time around, Axel gets involved in trying to solve the alphabet robberies after they tried to bump off Bogomil from the first film, so the three team up to try and find out who did it.
What do you make of this, Andrew?
Fun fact, at Billy's apartment there is a Cobra poster on the wall. I think there's a Rambo one in there somewhere as well, a nod to the fact that Sylvester Stallone was originally meant to play Axel Foley and left to make Cobra. I take this as a very playful nod because Bridget Nielsen is a villain in this movie, and at the time she was literally married to Sly.
So how long would it take to shave those legs anyway?
There's also a lot of cameos in this film, the three most notable being Gilbert Gottfried.
It's my wife's car. No, no, no. Bitch!
Hugh Hefner.
Are we having a problem here?
Hugh Hefner! Axel Foley! You know how many times I've put your magazine up and forget about it, it's not important, but...
And Chris Rock's first film, looking like an absolute baby.
Man, check this out. I get $10 for cars, I get $20 for limos. What the hell is this?
I like that we see Axel doing good police work. He's not just a wise guy that, breaks the rules to get things done. Like, he's a good detective.
It's very simple. What happens is the fumes from the super glue attaches itself to the acid from the fingerprint. It's old street cop trick. Hasn't filtered down to you boys down in Beverly Hills yet, though.
My favorite showing of this is that he uses a street technique to lift a fingerprint from a matchbox that the Beverly Hills cops have never seen before, but then they all sneak into the station together at night to run it through their high-tech database.
You boys definitely get an A in high tech. It takes 60 cops to do this shit back in Detroit.
It's the perfect coming together of the Detroit street smarts and the Beverly Hills bureaucracy to get themselves a lead. I love how it really shows the uniqueness of this trio and what they can achieve together. So the movie had a budget of $27 million, $8 million of that is Eddie Murphy's salary, and the film made $153 million domestically and $146 million internationally. It was a huge success. It was the #1 domestic box office for the entire year, and it was the highest opening weekend. It was third on the worldwide box office. This is a year where other movies that came out included Lethal Weapon, Predator, RoboCop, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon. You just don't get years in film like this anymore, do you? Good lord, the 80s and 90s were incredible for movies. There are some reports that on this film Eddie Murphy would show up late all the time, some of his behavior being deemed unprofessional, but my honest opinion on things like that is artists gonna artist. We live in a world where people are expected to be perfect, but honestly, who really cares as long as they deliver at the end of the day?
Well, these guys here, they with the board of health. They're here to make sure I do the job thoroughly.
So I really love this sequel. It's kept enough from the first film to be comforting, but expanded upon what worked best. The trio are together through pretty much the whole movie. And I, like many people, are a big fan of that dynamic between the three cops, and I loved it. I especially like Billy. He's probably my favorite character after Axel Foley. The only place where it doesn't quite match up to the original, maybe, is the villains. As cool as Bridget Nielsen is, I don't really feel invested about them stopping robberies. I know they want justice for Bogomil, but also he's fine, he didn't die, and it doesn't have quite the same stakes as a murdered friend and a kidnapped woman.
Goodbye, Mr. Foley.
Women.
There isn't quite the same peril or menace as we get in the first film, but it's still good. For ranking, it's tempting to put this up alongside the first one. It's that good as a sequel, but while I'm sure some people may even prefer Beverly Hills Cop 2 to the first film, I'm going to put it just below. It doesn't quite reach the same perfect formula and lightning in a bottle that the first one did. What do you think? Let me know in a comment. It's time to take a look at Beverly Hills Cop 3, and this is where things take a turn. We're going to talk about what went wrong, the big fallout between Eddie and the director, and why this movie is the most disliked in the series. There's no denying it is a massive change from the first two, but I think there might be a reason for that, and I have a bit of a confession about this one. Beverly Hills Cop 3 came out in 1994, that's the same year as The Mask, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, Stargate, True Lies, and Forrest Gump. The fun 90s were here, and the grit of the 80s was over. It's worth noting that by this time, Eddie Murphy's star had diminished a little after some not-so-successful films, and at this point he's looking for a comeback and a paycheck. Because when he was asked in 1989 about if he would do a third movie, he said, "There's no reason to do it. I don't need the money. It's not going to break any new ground. How often can you have Axel Foley talk fast, get into a place he doesn't belong, and Paramount ain't going to write me no check as big as I want to do something like that? If I do a Cop 3, you can safely say, oh, he must have got a lot of money." Well, he must have got a lot of money because he was reportedly offered $15 million to star in this movie. Zero judgment, I would star in pretty much anything for $15 million. Anyway, the film opens quite strongly. They bump off Inspector Todd, who we know and love from the last two films. This gives us a great stakes raise, and Axel Foley wants to get the guy who did it.
No!
Axel, you're on a coffee break. Go get that son of a bitch.
Awesome, we've got a proper villain, we've got someone who Axel loves taken out, and it's a really good reason for us as the audience to be invested. The script was pitched as Die Hard in a theme park, which on paper sounds awesome. Straight off the bat, we're losing some of the magic of the previous films because the guy that played Taggart couldn't make it to this film. He had commitments to be in something else, except they've basically replaced him with Hector Elizondo, who kind of looks like him and acts like him, but isn't Taggart. As a result, that sort of dynamic trio vibe is missing from this film entirely, and we don't really get that many scenes of Axel with Billy. And behind the scenes, there was even less harmony because the director this time, John Landis, and Eddie Murphy were not on the best of terms. John Landis directed the Thriller music video and had done 2 films previously with Eddie Murphy, Coming to America and Trading Places, honestly 2 amazing films. But he pretty much only took the Beverly Hills Cop 3 job because nobody else would hire him. The reason for that is that John Landis directed one segment of the Twilight Zone movie. And on the set of his segment, 3 people died, an actor, Vic Morrow, and 2 child actors. And he was reportedly very upset with Murphy for not showing up to his trial to publicly back him, and things were pretty frosty between the two, and they even ended up coming to blows behind the scenes on Beverly Hills Cop 3 with Murphy putting him in a headlock. When asked about not going to the trial, Murphy said, "I didn't go. I didn't feel like he was innocent. I was like, you're directing the movie. That was my personal thing. I would never say that to him. That's what my feelings were. So I was like, if you get acquitted, I'm happy for you, but I'm not coming down. Some kids died. That's the way I felt." But even then, Murphy was loyal to Landis, and he is the one who put him forward for the Beverly Hills Cop 3 job. And despite him getting Landis the job, they totally fell out on the set, with Landis ending up in Eddie's trailer and shouting at him, "I only did the movie to get paid. I have no respect for you as an actor. You effed me over as a friend." And the final straw for Eddie came when there were 2 new actresses who had just been cast in the movie, and he offered to take them both out for dinner to get to know them and to welcome them. He then overheard John telling them, "Don't go out with him. He's gonna F you if you do, and it will F this movie up. You stay away from him." Murphy would later say, "Vic Morrow has a better chance of working with Landis than I do." Yikes. That line is ice cold and goes pretty hard, even if it is in slightly poor taste. So, in a nutshell, all is not well on the set, and you can kind of feel the result of that in Eddie's energy. It is not as fast-paced, he's not as exuberant as he was, and rewatching this 30 years later, you can really feel the difference from the first 2 movies to this one. It feels like the soul has been sucked out of it.
Hey, listen, kid, I'm okie dokie and I changed the steps. You got a problem with that?
I'm sure that a bad vibe on set and having a fallout with the director has a massive impact on that, because how can you improv when you're around people that you don't like and who you know don't like you? Being funny and improvising with people is all about a vibe, a good mood, and being in a good place, and I just don't think that was happening on this set. We also have to throw out there that Eddie Murphy is just older. This is 10 years later. That first film was his breakout role. He was hungry and really looking to impress. By this point, he's had a string of hits and a string of flops, and he might have been slightly jaded by the whole thing. As a result, what we get is a very diluted version of Beverly Hills Cop. It's brightly lit like a comedy, gone are the gritty darks of the 80s, and this movie doesn't feel like Die Hard in a theme park. It feels like comedy Indiana Jones in a theme park, and that is a little less exciting. We even get the Axel F theme in this weird orchestral score that wants to be an adventure film so bad, and it's just horrible. It doesn't work. Here's the thing. As a kid, I loved this movie. It was my favorite of the three, and it feels like it's aimed at kids.
I love you, okie dokie.
The problem is, this is still an R-rated movie, which I had to look up. I googled this and I was shocked to find that it was still R-rated. I was honestly expecting to talk about how they took Beverly Hills Cop and tried to dilute it for a younger audience, but this is an R-rated movie. The kids couldn't even go and see this. So why does so much of it feel like it is being made for that audience, and why did it work on that audience? I think most children, people that were kids when this came out, or teens, liked this one better. But when you watch it now as an adult, you're like, oh my god, this is nothing like the first two. Eddie Murphy has come out and said that he tried to play Axel as a bit more mature and less wisecracking in this one, having him grow up a bit, but I don't know if I really buy that. Just so much of this film feels very childish. Don't get me wrong, I still really enjoyed watching this film again. I have nostalgia for this, and I remembered all of the scenes and the set pieces, and I had a really fun time watching this film the other day, but when you compare it with the other two, it's like it's from a different franchise. This ending is insane to me, that they have all been shot, which is kind of the tradition in these movies, but it's being played for laughs. This is where they tried to inject the comedy in, with Billy needing medical help.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
I wonder what time the park opens. He needs medical attention.
It is such a strange way to end the movie, one that is built on kind of the brotherhood and the camaraderie between these detectives, for them to not really care that they have been shot. It's just strange. So, what are the facts? What was the damage? The movie made $42 million domestically and $75 million internationally, for a total of $118 million. Whilst that doesn't sound terrible, it is reported that the budget for this was between 50 and 70 million, so they didn't make an awful lot of money back, and it was the end of the franchise for the next 30 years. But what did you think of number 3? Are you like me, where it was kind of a film that you liked as a kid and it's still a guilty pleasure to this day? We can admit that it's a bad film and still enjoy it, like I enjoyed watching it the other day. Let me know in a comment. This is a safe place for you to admit that you enjoyed Beverly Hills Cop 3. In terms of ranking, I think kid me probably would have given this an A, I saw it so many times as a kid, but now blending that with the rewatch, I'm gonna give it a C. What would you give it? And now Netflix has brought Axel Foley back for one more run. Still a cop in Detroit, but he comes to Beverly Hills to, you guessed it, investigate a case, this time after his daughter's life is threatened. Let's raise those stakes. It's a simple and fun movie which retreads a lot of the same ground from 40 years ago and uses the same formula. There's the exact same songs and sequences for the first portions of the movie, and I think this is done for that nostalgia factor.
Chasing bad guys with Axel Foley. Hell yeah!
40 years is a long time. There is nostalgia up for grabs here. The original cast are back, Taggart is back after missing the third film, and if anything, this film did give me a feeling of comfort. I felt good watching this, and it is what spurred me on to go back and rewatch the other 3 films, all available on Netflix.
Now you show up. We wish you were not getting shot at.
I said hands!
I feel like this latest installment doesn't quite capture the same fish out of water fun that the first film had. The trio vibes are missing. We instead have Axel and his daughter, or Axel and the new cop, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who does a really good job in the role. I'm a fan of his, and it's a shame that he's not in more and never really reached that leading man status.
Cannot do this. I can't do this. This is a bad idea. I think you're being a touch negative right now.
The villain is telegraphed. As soon as you see Kevin Bacon, you're like, oh, he's the bad guy. I don't know how you waste Kevin Bacon. He has very little to do in this and is probably the worst villain in the entire franchise. They just didn't give him anything to do.
You're no altar boy yourself, but you do get the pressure that I'm under.
But with all of that said, this movie is a fun 80s throwback. There was a joy to revisiting one of my favorite characters of all time with one of my favorite actors. I'm not one of those people who think sequels diminish or ruin a past movie. Those first movies still exist. You can enjoy and watch them still, just like I did. I'll take a bad sequel over no sequel. At least we get to revisit this character's world. The budget was $150 million, but with it being straight to streaming, we don't have much of a way to tell if that's worth it to Netflix. They did say it had 41 million views in the first 5 days and 80 million hours of watch time. And very recently, Eddie Murphy and Jerry Bruckheimer have revealed that a 5th Beverly Hills Cop film is now in development, so it can't have done that badly. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. Where does it rank on the others? I feel like I can't put it in with 3. It's definitely better than 3. So let's give it a B. I think this is a B movie. I will probably rewatch it at some point, and I think I'm going to enjoy it more when I rewatch it than when I watched it the first time. My expectations were probably a little bit too high. I was too excited to watch it, and I think I'll enjoy it a lot more the second time around. It's going to be a B.
I'm Nigel Applebottom with Bon Appetit, and I was wondering, to hell with this, I'm just too tired.
So like a phoenix, Axel Foley is back, rising from those 90s flames of the third installment, and we've got another Beverly Hills Cop movie to look forward to. So let me know in a comment which your favorite is in the series, and like and subscribe for more movie reviews, rankings, and reactions. You can find more of me below this video, including my gaming channel and my podcast where I read audiobooks to help you sleep. But until next time, good night.